Hey there! Thank you for tuning into DuckBricks. I'm Chris, and this is another breaking news analysis video. Now, I know I've covered this subject quite a lot in the past few weeks, but I did figure it deserved just one last follow-up video, just based on the comments that I've seen on either my videos or the comments on general LEGO fandom articles like Brickset and the Brick Fan. I just want to come here and clear up some misconceptions that people may be having about Bionicle, its status in the LEGO group, and all about this LEGO Ideas fan poll. So if you're here, you probably already know what this poll is, but just in case you don't, I'll give a very quick refresher. LEGO Ideas is running a 90th anniversary fan poll for them to create a set in 2022 based on one discontinued LEGO theme. Currently, the second round of voting is open, with the top 4 themes being Bionicle, Classic Space, Pirates, and Castle. Castle was actually a last-minute addition because LEGO compiled all the votes for the Castle sub-themes and realized that they actually eclipsed those of Bionicle when combined. So they felt it was a little unfair to leave it off the poll, which honestly I agree with. I think that it makes a lot of sense for LEGO to do this, and I actually appreciate them taking the effort to really go through the numbers and realize that there may or may not be one theme that when you combine all the sub-theme votes actually should belong in the top 3, or in this case the top 4. But I just wanted to get around to some misconceptions revolving around many of our favorite themes, a lot of people's least favorite theme, Bionicle. So LEGO Bionicle was a theme that ran from 2001 all the way up to 2010, which is a very impressive lifespan for an original theme, and it actually got a reboot in 2015, although that didn't do so well, and failed in 2016, causing it to be ended prematurely. So the biggest comment that I see people throwing around going into this poll is that, okay, all you Bionicle fans have been asking for Bionicle back. Why didn't you buy it when it came out in 2015 and 2016? Because obviously sales failed then. So what makes it any different that you're going to buy this set now? So I want to address this as the first common misconception that I've seen being thrown around pretty much endlessly. The main argument that you guys didn't go out and support and buy Bionicle G2 or Generation 2, which was the reboot when it came out. What makes this time any different? So I do want to clarify that these are two very, very different things. So Bionicle Generation 2 in 2015 was an attempt to restart Bionicle from its roots and essentially provide a clean slate for any new fan to join the story. What was the big problem? Well, LEGO didn't quite market it. You see, LEGO was relying on older Bionicle fans, specifically fans of Generation 1, to essentially sell the sets for them. As such, they made a number of questionable decisions surrounding Generation 2 that really drove a lot of people away from the theme and essentially made them not even be aware it existed. First of all, as many of you know, LEGO usually opens Big Bang themes with a TV show set on Cartoon Network, 22-minute episodes, whatnot. LEGO didn't actually do this, so first of all, Bionicle was not a Big Bang theme to them, and it seemed like it was a little bit more of an experiment. But the big problem came when they actually did invest in a TV show, but only in the second year of its run. So what kinds of story material did we get in the first year of Bionicle Generation 2, which was 2015? Well, we got some episodes being released on YouTube. They were about 5 minutes long, all narrated by the same voice actor, yes, including the female characters, all just by this one guy. And honestly, the release schedule was all over the place. Current Bionicle fans, or Bionicle fans who were currently fans of G1, who actually were trying to follow the story, were already having enough trouble trying to predict when these new episodes would be released, and when they were, to be quite frank, they weren't really exactly rich with story content. Many of the episodes, since they were only 5 minutes long, just featured the Toa stumbling upon a golden mask, fighting some skull spiders and getting it. Not a very engaging story for many kids, and if the current fans of G1 who knew about G2 were already having enough trouble trying to find out when these were being released, trying to watch them, oftentimes they'd be released in a completely different language first, and then they'd come out in English a few months later. It was kind of a catastrophe in terms of marketing, and you can imagine how difficult it would be for a new kid, let's say a new fan around 5 to 10 years old, going on Lego.com, seeing the Bionicle sets and saying, oh, well, these look cool, where can I see the story? The answer was, well, you can't really see the story because they're not pushing it at all. The other thing is that G2 barely got any advertisements. Again, LEGO was relying on older fans to market this to the younger audience. They weren't actually allowing the theme to rest on its own laurels and market for itself. So no, this does not mean that Bionicle is not a viable product in today's market. Heck, if any theme was not marketed, you could call it not viable. I bet that if Ninjago came out and it did not have a TV show, it was not marketed, we definitely wouldn't be celebrating Ninjago's 10-year anniversary this year, and we probably wouldn't have even made it past Ninjago Year 2 if they barely marketed it. The same goes for Bionicle Generation 2. It was barely marketed, had really no appeal to kids, and a host of other problems that really weighed it down, and all of those factors are quite simply not present here in the Bionicle Ideas fan vote. If Bionicle came back in 2022, it would be for one single set, not for a full range, and it's not like this time they actually have to market it to kids because, well, as a collector's set, it probably will be 18 plus and be aimed at the adult collectors. Specifically, they're probably going to aim it at adult fans of Bionicle. Now this is where things get a little shaky. I don't necessarily know if LEGO wants to take that risk or if they'll go with something a little safer like Classic Castle or Space, which quite frankly may have a wider appeal among the AFOL community. But if you do look at the votes, it is quite clear that Bionicle does have quite a chance here. So who knows, LEGO may or may not do it, but that's the truth about G2. You really can't judge Bionicle just because G2 failed, because there are a host of reasons surrounding that. I haven't even brought up the fact that these Star Wars construction figures came out at the same time, and G2 is very unfortunately timed to release in 2015, which was of course the start of the Star Wars sequel trilogy where a lot of kids would go see the Star Wars movies, and if they wanted an action figure from LEGO, would they get an unrecognizable property that they can't even find any story material for, or would they get the characters that they just saw in the brand new movie? And even then, those ones didn't even sell that well themselves. So there are a host of problems surrounding G2. Can't really pin it on Bionicle, so that is that. The second misconception that I do want to address is that specifically Bionicle was a relatively minute blip in the company's history. Especially when compared to LEGO System and LEGO Technic, Bionicle is relatively insignificant and it just represents a time period where LEGO was being very experimental and doesn't really represent the LEGO brand as a whole. Now I do want to address this on two major points. First of all, Bionicle is not a blip. Any theme that lasts basically 10 years is really not a blip because that means that it is selling well enough for LEGO to continue doing it. But how well exactly did Bionicle sell? A lot of you out there may have heard the statement that Bionicle saved the LEGO group. This is 100% true. There's a really excellent book called Brick by Brick, which actually analyzes the market strategy behind LEGO and goes chapter by chapter analyzing how LEGO essentially conquered the global toy industry. There's an entire chapter in there devoted to Bionicle, but I'd actually recommend for even any system fans watching this who know nothing about Bionicle, who maybe really dislike Bionicle, give it a read because it actually goes really in depth into LEGO's company strategies, and there's honestly quite a lot to be learned about how LEGO shifted and evolved their development status over the course of time throughout that book. But anyways, getting back to Bionicle. Bionicle was really a theme where in 2001, LEGO was taking a big risk. They were trying to come up with something that would appeal to people who quite frankly were not interested in the system brick. Now this might seem counterintuitive, but if you look at Bionicle's sales, they eclipsed every single other LEGO theme in 01, 02, and most of 03. Now this is very significant because it was during that time when LEGO was considering selling out to another company. LEGO was about to be acquired by a larger company. Just think about how different LEGO would be today had they had been acquired by a different company and had Bionicle not been there to save them. LEGO obviously is a family-owned company. This was pretty crazy, and this really shows that they were in dire financial straits. They seriously needed a theme to pull them out of the water because they were reporting the first losses in years. And that theme was Bionicle. Now, a counter-argument to this that I've seen is that, well, Star Wars came out in 1999, and that was really what saved the LEGO group. See, you're not wrong as well. LEGO Star Wars did play a massive role in helping LEGO stay afloat. But there was one big problem with that. You see, Star Wars is licensed. That means that a lot of the revenue coming in had to be shared with the licensee, which was Lucasfilm. Now obviously, with the Phantom Menace at its peak, Star Wars hype at its high, a lot of people were into Star Wars, and these sales were enough to really help carry both companies afloat. But LEGO was definitely not getting as much money as they were hoping, especially because a large portion of that royalty fee had to be paid to Lucasfilm. Bionicle was their original IP that was one of the first original IPs that actually did really well and proved that LEGO had a franchise hit on their hands. This is why so many movie studios were approaching LEGO around that time trying to produce a Bionicle movie, and eventually we did get some. They weren't perfect, they definitely had their flaws, and quite frankly, they're not very good, especially when watched today with the retrospective of looking through the lens of, well, comparing to the LEGO movies today or the media that LEGO puts out today. They're a little clunky, they don't really land at all points. But without those Bionicle movies, do you think we would have gotten the LEGO movies? Do you think we would have gotten LEGO Movie 1 and 2, the LEGO Batman movie, and even the LEGO Ninjago movie? And the answer is no, we probably wouldn't have because of Bionicle's lasting impact. If they weren't there to pave the way to being the first LEGO movies to release, we probably wouldn't have gotten those today. So Bionicle's legacy is still quite strong. The other major thing about Bionicle's legacy is action themes. Before Bionicle, LEGO had a very, very strict policy against conflict in their original themes. In fact, this was one of the things that was really stopping them from doing LEGO Star Wars, is because they really didn't want to do conflict. But that's a little bit of a different thing because that's licensed. Now, when Bionicle hit the scene, it completely changed the game. If you look at the Matanui online game, there is a specific scene that redefined how LEGO treats action themes today. It was essentially a melee hand-to-hand combat or weapon combat fight between Toa Liwa and Toa Onua. This was pretty much unheard of amongst any original LEGO theme. You'd never see two minifigures actually battling or going at it like they were going at it in those animations. And the success of Monog and Bionicle as a whole actually caused LEGO to rethink their stance on this. And now we have themes like Ninjago, Nexo Knights, Shima, Monkey Kid, Hidden Side. All of these action and adventure themes are really based around conflict and battle in a box, and Bionicle was the one that paved the way for that to happen. And finally, even when you look internally, ignoring any external legacy that Bionicle has had on the LEGO Group, it made significant changes to the LEGO Group's development cycle and essentially made them a lot more efficient and made them how they are today. Brick by Brick, again, expounds a lot upon this. LEGO used to have a set development cycle of up to 3 years. So they could be making a set and it would take 3 years to get out from conception to actually hitting market. Bionicle took that 3 years and made it 6 months. So essentially what they did was that they've completely revitalized LEGO's whole innovation strategy, where instead, if they want to address something new, they want to do something that's modern, it doesn't take them 3 years to get a product onto shelves. Now, of course, today the set development cycle has been shortened from 3 to about 1 year, which honestly I feel is a pretty good thing. It gives them enough time to refine their concepts without things getting too stale. We again have Bionicle to thank for that, because they had to keep on producing Bionicle sets at a very, very rapid rate just to carry the vast momentum of the theme. And this represented a process innovation, where if you take business classes or you know anything about marketing or management for a large company, a process innovation is something that significantly changes how you produce certain things as a company and the supply chains in which you make products in either a good way or a bad way. And in this case, it was a very good way because it made LEGO a lot more efficient. So for anyone who says Bionicle does not have a lasting legacy today or was just a blip in the LEGO company's relatively rich and long history, I challenge you to think again, because if you do actually crunch the numbers, Bionicle had the same amount of years of Pirates. Pirates, if you add up all their years, has 12 years. So does Bionicle. So really you could say that the lasting legacy of those themes is about the same, if not Bionicle having the edge because of all the other reasons I mentioned earlier, like redefining action themes, shortening their production life cycle, and all of this other stuff that caused Bionicle to skyrocket to popularity. Now, the next misconception that I do want to address is a pretty common one I've seen being thrown out at a very frequent rate. That is, well, this is the 90th anniversary of LEGO. Why are you not celebrating the LEGO brick? Bionicle wasn't around 90 years ago. Why don't you do something that's more true to the company's legacy and do something produced around the LEGO brick, like Castle, like Space, like Pirates? Well, there's two ways to approach this. And one, if you look back 90 years ago, LEGO wasn't making bricks. In fact, they weren't even doing anything in plastic. They were making stuff like this. Well, at least the wooden version of this. This was one of the first and most famous LEGO products, the wooden duck. In fact, this was made out of wood in one of their most successful products, which caused them to catapult into the toy industry. Now, this model right here is a recreation of the wooden duck made as an exclusive set to celebrate the Lego house in Billund, Denmark. In fact, you can only buy it there, or you can be like me and buy all the parts you need for it off of Bricks and Pieces, but that's another story for a different video. So what I'm saying is that if Lego really wants to celebrate the toys that came out 90 years ago, then they should just release this publicly and call it good, because you're not going to get a better representation of what Lego was 90 years ago if you don't do something like a model of the wooden duck. I mean, if you really want to keep it strict to what Lego was 90 years ago, then they should just do something like this. Do it for a Lego brick or something, or heck, just re-release the wooden duck in this exact format. That's how you celebrate 90 years of the Lego group, if you want to produce a product that was around or something that represents something that was around 90 years ago. Neither Bionicle nor the system brick were around 90 years ago. So if you want to do something related to that, then they should do a wooden product. But of course, that then begs the argument, okay, well, I get it. Neither of these are around 90 years ago, but if you look at the history of Lego, the system brick is something that's a lot more ubiquitous, it's a lot more representative of Lego, and it doesn't make sense to celebrate a construction, buildable action figure theme for the 90th anniversary of Lego. And honestly, I definitely can see that point. But I'm going to be completely honest here. 90 is kind of a strange number. It's not 100, it's not 50. 90 is something kind of in between. For the 100th anniversary of Lego, and I've seen other members of the community say this as well, by all means, they should do something a little bit more than a set for that. In fact, I'd love an entire legacy line of older Lego themed sets reimagined in 10 years when Lego hits their 100th anniversary in 2032. That would be an amazing time to get some sort of a revamped line for Lego. For the 90th anniversary, it's a bit of a strange milestone, and what better way to celebrate that than a very unique theme that Lego took a risk on that propelled the company to success and in many ways, shape, or forms molded it into what the company is today. And that product line is Bionicle. For the 90th anniversary, I believe that Bionicle actually deserves this spot. And of course, I have a whole analysis video on how I don't think it actually will be picked. So go watch that. I mean, I think that they're definitely going to do something related to classic space or castle and whatnot. But I do feel that on the off chance that Bionicle is picked and we can get it to the right votes, it does actually deserve this win. Now, a lot of people are saying, again, it's not System, but celebrate System for the 100th anniversary. Heck, release an entire legacy line full of a castle set, a space set, a pirate set, even Adventurers and Rock Raiders, and I guess Model Team, because that one did well for some reason. But Bionicle, that's something you can celebrate for the 90th anniversary, because it's not a huge milestone marker like 100. You can afford to take a risk on this milestone and celebrate something that, by taking a risk, allowed Lego to be where it is today. For all we know, Lego wouldn't even exist today without Bionicle. Or even if it did, it could be barely recognizable, because it would have been bought out by another company because it was close to bankruptcy. We have Bionicle to thank for that, and honestly, I'd love to see that commemorated in some sort of a set, because of course it was the theme that did save Lego. No matter how many times you may hear this, it sounds like a broken record, but yes, it did save Lego from bankruptcy. I do think it deserves this one win. The next misconception that I do want to address is that I've also seen this comment that, okay, you just got Bionicle in 2015 and 2016. Where have we gotten Castle? Where have we gotten Space? Where have we gotten Pirates? I have a few words for this one. Pirates of Barracuda Bay, Medieval Blacksmith, and the Lego Movies 1 and 2. All of those represent times where these themes have been represented in modern fashion. Pirates of Barracuda Bay is basically an anniversary set celebrating classic Lego Pirates. Medieval Blacksmith is the same for Lego Castle. The Lego Movies 1 and 2 not only gave us a neo-classic spaceship in the form of Benny's Spaceship, but also gave us a ton of Lego Classic Space recolors, new colors, and even a Classic Space battle pack for the Lego Movie 2. These themes are being represented and have been represented in the past and future, and I wouldn't be surprised if we kept on seeing nods to them in the future portfolio of Lego and Ideas sets. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if a new Lego Space Idea set goes through review and is accepted, and same for a Pirates or a Castle set. In fact, another Castle one just hit 10,000 supporters. So we are getting these in the form of idea sets, and LEGO is making them a throwback sort of line to the classic themes. We're not getting anything like this for Bionicle. The last LEGO Bionicle Ideas project that was accepted was turned down by LEGO. It doesn't seem like they're willing to take a risk on that, especially for ideas. In fact, if you look at the past several years, and there has been quite a few since the Generation 2 line of sets came out, the only thing that we've seen from Bionicle is a nod here and there, like a sticker in a city set, the Ninjago sets having some nods and references, and even some hidden sides having some Bionicle stickers on the sides. But really, that's about it. We haven't actually seen a return to form to Bionicle really since 2015. And if you look at the reboot, I'm going to try to make an analogy here that might be similar for LEGO Space fans. Imagine if Galaxy Squad came out, say, in 2015 or 2016. Now, Galaxy Squad is a theme that really was not one of the better selling LEGO Space themes, because, I for one really like it, but I know a lot of people didn't, a lot of people had their major problems with it. But then now imagine that LEGO Classic Space is on the poll, and everywhere you see comments, oh, you guys just got Space, and it didn't sell well, why would you get Space again? Now, Galaxy Squad and Classic Space are two very different things, as any system fan can tell you. Bionicle Generation 1 and Generation 2 are also two quite very different things, as any Bionicle fan can tell you. One of them, of course, had a very rich story, a deep lore, and lasted for a long time. The other one had, well, admittedly good sets, I'll give them that. I love the Bionicle G2 sets, although they aren't without controversy. I know a lot of people do not like them in the Bionicle community, but it had basically no story and really was just a semblance of what Bionicle used to be. So now imagine if we apply that to, well, Castle. Castle got a very juniorized line of sets, actually quite recently as well, in 2013, or the modern era of LEGO. And that did not sell well either, which caused Castle to be retired. So now imagine people going around saying, oh, well, Castle didn't do well back then. Well, why would it do well now? As you can obviously tell, that's a very different thing, and the same goes for Pirates. Pirates had a line in 2015 with very, very juniorized sets, and those, you guessed it, did not sell well. So now imagine people are going around saying, well, we shouldn't get any more pirate sets because the last theme didn't sell well. That's essentially what you're saying about Bionicle, and quite frankly, you can equate these on a very similar level. Especially for Pirates. Those came out at around the same time. Now, Pirates just saw massive success with the Barracuda Bay set, a really huge pirate set that, honestly, if you believe that Pirates isn't selling well because the previous line didn't sell well, then explain why that one sold well. The same goes for Bionicle, although Bionicle has not actually gotten a chance to get a larger D2C set, so we never have actually seen the full potential a large Bionicle set should reach. So it's not that because G2 failed we shouldn't get Bionicle. That'd be the same as saying, oh well, because the last Space line failed we shouldn't get Space. Because the last Castle line failed we shouldn't get Castle, and because the last Pirates line failed we shouldn't get Pirates. You're saying the same thing, so try to actually have kind of a level playing field when you're making these arguments. But at the end of the day, LEGO is all about having fun with toys. It is a children's toy. So I've seen a lot of negativity around the community surrounding both Bionicle and the classic themes, and honestly I feel like this poll probably could have been run a little bit better as to not pit LEGO subgroups and fandoms against each other, but really at the end of the day, I personally will be happy as a LEGO fan who loves space, who loves Castle, who loves Pirates, and loves Bionicle. I'll be happy with whatever they choose. I'll be even more happy if they put Bionicle on the box, because, quite frankly, I will buy anything with the Bionicle label on the box. This has been said by many members of the community as well, and I know it's not a sentiment that a lot of people share, but I personally will buy it if it says Bionicle. I don't care what it is, I will buy it, I will buy multiple. And honestly, the same may go for a classic space set. I love classic space personally. It's one of my favorite LEGO space sub-themes. It's a very nostalgic theme. It's something that represents what LEGO was several years ago, maybe not 90 years ago, but a lot more years more than Bionicle, so I can definitely see classic space or even Castle or Pirates deserving this vote as well. I love all these four themes almost at an equal level. Bionicle only has the edge because of its amazing storyline, but set-wise, I love all of them. Instead of people saying, oh, anything but Bionicle, or anything but Pirates, or something like that, why don't we just come together and all share our love for LEGO, and personally, that's what I'm going to do. I really don't want to engage in really strong arguments that people just very much don't want to see Bionicle. You're entitled to like what you like, and the same goes for myself. And personally, I like all 4, and I know I'm in a very rare position because not a lot of people appreciate all 4 of these themes. I know there's a big divide between Bionicle fans and fans of, let's say, classic LEGO in terms of the brick. Personally, I think that this is the way to celebrate all of them. And honestly, may the best theme win, because I'm very excited to see how this vote turns out. And we won't know until 2022 exactly what happened here, if LEGO even decides to release the results. For all we know, they may just release the set and never tell us who actually won. So there really is no point in arguing so bitterly about this. Just go out and vote for your favorite theme. If you love Bionicle, then vote for Bionicle. If you love pirates, then vote for pirates. If you love castle, then vote for castle. And if you love space, well, you guessed it, vote for classic space. And you know what I love? All of them. But I also love it when people go in the comments and explain which theme is their favorite. What themes do you like and don't like? Let me know, and I'm very curious to see which ones you think have the greatest chances of winning and which themes that you personally want to win. And let me know what kind of set you'd love to see from really any of these themes, because I can imagine quite a few and all of them are very, very exciting. That's all I have to say. Thank you for tuning into this video, and stay tuned to Duckbricks for even more LEGO news, reviews, discussion, and analyses coming your way very soon. Bye-bye for now.